very long and intensive video conference of European Affairs Minister on a number of very important issues for Europe. We are joined this evening by State Minister Michael Roth from Berlin, Vice President Maros Šefčovič here in Brussels, and Commissioner Didier Reynders in Brussels as well. They will now debrief you on the discussions of the European Affairs Ministers. And without further ado, Mr. State Minister, you have the floor. Herr Roth, Sie haben das Wort. Vielen Dank.
Mr. Roth, you have the floor. Thank you, Sebastian, and also thanks to the colleagues from the Commission. We had an extremely long meeting today, almost 8 hours, but I think it was certainly worth it. We had a whole range of important issues on our agenda, and I think we have demonstrated once again that the European Union, in very difficult circumstances, I mean, the pandemic's there like a sort of Damocles, but still the EU has demonstrated that we have the ability to take action. Now, I'd like to start with an important point. The key point really is the rule of law dialogue. This is a new instrument that we want to introduce so that we want to have a better understanding, a common understanding of what the European Union is. It's not just a currency union, it's also the fact that we are a union of the rule of law. And that's a prerequisite for everyone in the European Union. In October already, we had a general discussion, which started the discussion, and on the basis of the Commission's report on the rule of law. And here again, I would like to specifically thank the Commission, Commissioner Jourova, Commissioner Reynders, for the work that they've done, because without this kind of objective report, it would not have been possible to have the kind of discussion in Council that we did. You all know that the initiative for such a peer review exercise is something that back in 2016 at the start was launched, as it were, almost by Mr. Reynders. And now we have come to, provisionally at least, to a successful conclusion. And with 27 member states, it's not possible to have a very intensive, substantive discussion in one meeting. So that's why we proposed that we would start with 5 member states, alphabetic order, to make it clear that all of the member states will receive equal treatment. There will be no discrimination. There will be no poorer treatment or less good treatment of some countries. So we had Belgium, Denmark, Bulgaria, Czechia and Estonia. Those are the 5 countries that started today. And we had a very fruitful discussion, and I think we've achieved our objectives. Firstly, it was important to flag up areas where there's room for improvement, things that may not work that well. The second point was to learn from each other, and the third point was to clear up misunderstandings, to come to a common understanding of rule of law. And there are 3 elements that I'd like to make clear again. Where are there problems? For example, Bulgaria had said that they were prepared in an action plan on the rule of law to improve those elements that had been the subject of criticism in the Commission's report. And then a second important point was that we made clear, or we looked at political influence in the judiciary, for example, and where you only have nominal, as it were, control or influence by the head of state. But that situation is not to be set on the same footing as a government seeking to influence a judiciary. So I think we teased that out very clearly. And we saw that the Portuguese presidency, but also the Slovenian presidency, are very willing to establish this process so that we can say that in the German presidency of Council, we have created this new instrument which will contribute towards, in a preventive manner, intervene and take action and have a common understanding of the rule of law. And that will lead to a more common approach. And we have to have this political agreement and to keep coming back to that political agreement. So thank you again to Portugal and Slovenia. We've been able to start the process now, but this new mechanism will be carried through under the Portuguese and Slovenian presidencies next year. Despite some conflict that occurred in this initial dialogue, then another very important point, looking ahead to the European Council, the summit, we had an intensive discussion on climate. It has become clear that most of the member states basically support an ambitious climate target or goals for 2050. There may be some differing views on how we might achieve that, but that I think is perfectly understandable. But with that 50%, many delegations were able to go along with it and endorse it. And again, I think our discussions today means that we will be able to reach a better agreement quicker in the summit, the European Council, in December. And there's something else, obviously, fighting the pandemic. We've been dealing with that for a number of months now. And in the coordination phase, we had achieved a certain amount. But in terms of solidarity and exchange on technical equipment, the most seriously ill, border areas, there are lots of kind of issues where there was room for improvement. And we're grateful that now the heads of state and government are able to have an exchange now on a much more regular basis through the use of video conferences. Then there's another important point. For many years now in Council, we have been dealing intensively with enlargement. I'm sure you're all aware of various conflicts. And in April of this year, there was a mandate for negotiations with Macedonia and Albania. Now, unfortunately, we haven't been able to make the hope for progress in recent years in terms of setting the framework, and that would be a prerequisite for the IGC, the Intergovernmental Conference. Albania, the criteria are met, but with North Macedonia, we did want to get that on track with our presidency. And I'm very grateful today that North Macedonia has made it clear that, and we've made it clear that stability is very important in that area. That's a key point in terms of our strategy. And so I think we have a good situation. Now, there can be bilateral conflicts, for example, with North Macedonia and Bulgaria, for example, and there are also issues that are of importance in terms of Central and Eastern Europe. But once again, I think we made clear today that in the search for reasonable solutions and we want to be helpful, and we want to clear the path as much as possible so that we can start on those intergovernmental conferences. But now we felt it was not the time. If you have bilateral conflicts that cannot be resolved in the upcoming weeks, we felt now is not the time to refer that to the European Council level. I think we want to send the right signal both towards the Western Balkans, North Macedonia and Albania. Now, they have already done a lot and they have their claims. They want to be part of this European community. It's a long path, difficult path, but it has to get started really with actual negotiations. Then there was the issue of transparency, and we were able to discuss with colleagues. We discussed the state of play on negotiations in the multi-annual financial framework, the MFF. We also discussed Next Gen EU package, for example, in conjunction with the rule of law dialogue. And so we were informed, but we were not able to reach the hoped-for consensus in Council today. But I did get the feeling that, well, we had a compromise with Parliament, and I think we have the basis for a breakthrough, so that the European Union can keep their promises that all of the citizens in the European Union will get the help where help is most urgently needed. And I think for those member states who are not yet able to sign up to the compromise for this mechanism, have to know that at the end of the day, their citizens will have to, it will cost them, it will pay a price if we don't succeed in this. And so we called on all of the member states, and this is something which will benefit all of the member states, all of the citizens. And hopefully we will be able to reach consensus on that. So that's a brief overview of a meeting which lasted almost 8 hours. I left a few things out, but those were the main strands. And I'm sure our colleagues from the Commission will have further comments to make. Thank you.
Minister, now I pass the floor to the Vice President. Vice President Šefčovič, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, and thank you very much, Michael, not only for very able chairing of this very long but very productive General Affairs Council, but also for how well you